Hello students, today we are going to see IAM. It is nothing but managing the identity and access in AWS account. So IAM stands for Identity and Access Management. It is a web service that helps you control the access to AWS resources or else securely control the access to AWS resources. With IAM you can manage permissions that control which AWS resources users can use. Means we are going to create some separate users to which who will access the AWS account of a main user. So generally when we create AWS account, a main root user will be there who has access to all the resources and all the services available on the AWS. But if he wants some users to access his account and do some work, he can he can create user and give permissions to what all services he can access. That is what is AIM. So you use AIM to control who is going to access, means who is authenticated and authorized to use users. Means what, you create an account and you give authentication and authorization to access the to access and use resources at AWS. So what are the features of IAM? So you can grant other people permission to use resources in your AWS account without having to share your password or access key. Means what, root user need not access his root user ID or username and password or access keys. He can create a user and give it to that person, and who can access the account and do the task which is assigned to him. So that is nothing but share access to your AWS account by creating a user and giving him details or credentials of that user to access, and this access will be limited. He cannot access all the things. What all permissions you can give based on the requirement you give. You can grant permissions, different permissions to different people for different resources. That is what is granular permissions. For example, you want some users to use Amazon EC2 and Amazon Simple Storage, Amazon that is AS3, and some other users you want only them to read only and see what the contents are there in your servers. Means what, you can allow read only access to just some C3 buckets, S3 buckets, or permission to administer just some EC2 instances, or to access your billing information. So this way different users will be doing different tasks. So based on their requirement and based on their work, we will grant permissions. So that is the second feature. Third feature is secure access to AWS resources for applications that run on Amazon EC2. Means what, we will be running some applications which need to be private, which everybody should not access. So we will create some special users, so and we will provide them with some credentials so that they can access EC2 using those credentials and see that applications work properly. These credentials provide permissions for application to access other AWS resources. Examples include S3 buckets and some Dynamo tables or some specific applications. Fourth another feature is you can create MFA, because you can add two-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication is nothing but you need to provide two authentications. One, whenever you are accessing your account using your user credentials, as well as this account will be tied up or attached to a device. So there also authentication should be done. So that is what is multi-factor authentication. So now we have seen the theory. We will try to see the hands-on so that we understand how we create users. So can how we create and access IAM users. There are four ways. One is you can work with identity, access and AWS identity and access management in any of the following ways. First one is AWS management console. The console is a browser based interface to manage IAM and AWS resources. Next is AWS command line tools. You can use the AWS command line tools to issue commands at your system's command line to perform IAM and AWS tasks. Using the command line is faster and more convenient than console. Command line tools are also useful if you want to build scripts and perform AWS tasks. So AWS provides two sets of command line tools. One is AWS command line interface, that is AWS CLI, and the AWS tools for Windows PowerShell. The third way is AWS SDKs, software development kits. It consists of libraries and sample code for various programming languages and platforms like Java, .NET, Ruby and Android, etc. The SDKs provide a convenient way to create programmatic access to IAM and AWS. For example, SDKs take care of tasks such as cryptographically signing requests, managing errors and retrying requests automatically. And the fourth one is AIM Query API. You can access AIM in AWS programmatically by using this, which lets you issue HTTP requests directly to the service. When you use the Query API, you must include code to digitally sign requests using your credentials. Now, creating an AIM user, how it is done, one way using a console I will show. So, for this we will be going to our AWS console. So, we will go to AWS console. So, once you come to login as a root user, you can search for IAM. You just go to search and click IAM. So, once you search, you find this, you click in IAM. So, you get the home page of IAM services. So, you want to create a user, in the navigation pane select users. So, this is the navigation pane on the left side. So, here we are want to create the users. So, I say users. Once I come to users, there you can see you can create a user. So, you can click on create user. So, once you want to create a user, you need to supply the name. Suppose I say user 1. So, here this name will be used to log in. This is a username and password we are going to give, that will be used to log in this user account. So, this, if you see, provide user access to the AWS management console. So, I will check this. Once I check this, here I have, are you providing console access to a person, specify a user in identity center, or I want to create an IAM user. Suppose I want to create a new user, I will check on this, I will enable this. Here it asks me, next it will ask me whether we need to auto generate the password or create a customized password. So, I will create a customized password. I will give some names, some password which I want that user to use. So, it should be a combination of, it should be at least 8 characters, it should be a combination of lower uppercase letters, numbers, symbols. These all rules you have to follow whenever you are creating a password. If you see, I have created password with capital letters, lower cases, numbers and also special symbols. So, this is how you create a password. So, this password will be used by the user to access his account. So, or you can check this if if user want to change his password. So, if I check this, users must create a new password the next time. Means what? Once I give his credentials and he logs in, at that time he need to change his password. If I check this, so this I am going next. When I click next, here I see the permissions. So, add user, if I want to add user to an existing group which is already created, which has got some policies and what rules it has to follow, those all are given when you create a group. So, either I can add to that group, or I can check with this, or I can attach policies directly. So, generally what we do is we create a user group, and whatever policies to the group are required, we will attach that policies, and whenever we are creating any user with certain requirements, all those users will come to that group. So, I will go with this group. So, if I want to select one of this, I can select. If not, attach policies directly, I will say. So, once I say this, it will ask for policies. If I say copy permissions, it will ask for permissions. So, we will say add user to a group. I will select a group. I say I have created some groups, developers and testers. What work that user is going to do. Suppose if this user is a developer, I will say developer. I will click this, and then I go for set permissions. So, here I can set permissions. They specify how you want to assign permission for this user. So, this will do that. So, if I want to check, I will check or it's an optional. If it is an optional, I will not check this. So this is an advanced feature. Open the permission boundary section. So use a permission boundary to control the maximum persons, how many persons are going to access this, those all details will be there. We are not worried about that right now. I say next. Once I say next, it will come to review and create. Here you can review. So I am username, I have given as user1. I have created a custom password. Require password reset. Yes, it is means what, once you log in you need to create password. So these are the groups which are there. Developer group I am using, so here it is there, and users permissions group I have checked that. So this way this user has things, and any tags if you want to add, you can add the tags, but right now we are not going to add any tags. So I will say create user. Once I say create user, I will see this page wherein the username is there and password is there, and how that user is going to access that account. That sign in URL is also given. So if I see the password, the what password I have given, that password comes over here. So I can download this .csv file and keep it for that user, and whenever it is required I can ask him to send sign in using that account. So this is what and then I return to list of users. You see that user is created. So this is how I create a user and allow him to access my root account, and I'll allow him, I have given some permissions. Based on those permissions he will access the account and he can do limited things. All the services which are available to root user may not be available to this user which we IAM user which we have created. He has got limited resources at his stake and he can use them. Thank you.